staying, and hopefully we have a seat for everybody now that wants to sit. Thank you for your patience. I hope the business went well. We're back in session. Next item on our agenda is on zoning. We do not have any zoning issues this month, so moving on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is published in blue in your packet. It was requested at our work session on Thursday last. And if any member would like to bump or remove anything from the consent agenda, you may do so at this time. Consent agenda requires a unanimous vote. So if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Commissioner Gardner, Commissioner Carlton, Mr. George second. We have the consent agenda on board. When the board opens, cast your vote. Has everyone voted? Commissioner Shaw, Dr. Walker.
Mayor, of course, I'm voting in the affirmative, but I just wanted to point out one more time that on the consent agenda, you have the Tony Galloway's appointment and
we have a resolution for that.
yes, and Mrs. We got Mrs. Aker, Dr. Akers.
Dr. Akers.
I just want to mention one more time, she did a great job for us, and we appreciate her service.
I appreciate you doing that, Commissioner Shaw. You're exactly right, and this county owes her a great debt of gratitude.
Thank you.
And thank you for pointing that out. I wanted the recognition of Mr. Galloway and our appointments, and that's why we kind of took it out of order. So, any other matters are taken up?
23 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you. Having received the necessary majority, consent agenda is adopted. Next item on the agenda is old business before the commission for final passage or rejection. Item number 2, sponsored by Commissioner Shaw and Commissioner Stevens. Commissioner Shaw, you recognize item number 2.
I wish to withdraw.
Without objection. Item number 2 is withdrawn from the commission at the request of the sponsor. Thanks, sir. Next up is item number 3. Commissioner Hartwell, you're recognized on item number 3.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is for a community development block grant funds. As the committees know, we demonstrated in our presentation, we have people in our district that needs drinking water. They've got well water right now, but it's got E. coli, and these block grants are given out for people with low means of financial ability, and so I would appreciate it if you all could see the way clear to approving this resolution. We still have to get the grant approved through Nashville, but this is the next step, so I move to pass.
Commissioner Hartwell renews his motion, seconded by Commissioners Blaylock and Commissioner Crawford. Any discussion? You ready to vote? When the board opens, cast your vote. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
23 yes, 1 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, item number 3 is adopted. Next up, item number 4, Commissioner Vance as amended. Commissioner Vance.
This resolution, you should have received the amendment that has been recommended by the Animal Shelter, Sullivan County Incorporated. one under this resolution. And number one, we're going to delete the reference to low-income residents. And also number two amendment, it says where the resolution that is amended to rescind with the exception of funds previously appropriated in the amount of $10,000, that those funds be used to spay and neuter programs instituted and directed at the animal shelter of Sullivan County. That no additional new monies are appropriated at this time. However, donations may be accepted from private citizens and resources. Third amendment was that the language referring to the Accounts and Budgets Office be removed from the last paragraph of the resolution, and that where the Board of Directors of the Animal Shelter Incorporated of Sullivan County develop the rules and regulations to determine the eligibility guidelines and implementation of the program. So, Mr. Chairman, I call for the vote on as amended, sir.
Commissioner Vanton Hughes has motion for adoption, seconded by Commissioner Crosswhite. Do we have any discussion, any questions?
Call for question.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw, let's don't cut off our, Sam, I could lean on you with your
I just want to make sure I understood the part about the low income. In other words, there's no test applied to a citizen in this way you revise
The
this.
test will be determined by the new committee for the animal shelter on how to handle it, and they also have that program in Washington County. As they're established in the rules and regulations of the shelter, they'll establish on how that is handled in other shelters.
I believe I can support it now, but you did prevent me from my presentation I was gonna make. And I got my two training aides here, one's Ranger, my dog, and the other one's Gorgeous, my other dog, and they have great stories, but maybe for another time.
Save them cats for later on, and if anybody would like one, I've got a few over here on my desk.
Commissioner, all that's out.
And they are for adoption, no adoption fee required, and they are spayed. They're a little hard, but they're spayed.
Commissioner Shaw, that's out of order, but we will have to furnish clerk pictures of those out.
Gladly he'll get it.
I'm kidding, Pat. We don't have to do that.
They're real cute.
No, they are. You
We
wouldn't
got a
have
bunch of them, or you can come over
Any
and
other questions?
Ranger's only got two speeds, off and high.
Point them toward the camera there, Pat. There you go.
Yes, I'm very fortunate they adopted me.
Thank you, Pat.
Yes,
Any
sir.
other discussion or questions on,
Mr. Jones was asked to be recognized, sir.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Jones, you had a question?
He said hello to get your mic on. In that first one, did you just want to take out the words low income?
Yes, sir.
If you take out residence, then it changes the whole line completely. Just low income, correct?
Yes.
You accept the change, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Sponsor accepts it, correct. Leave her ready to vote when the board opens, please cast your vote. Everyone voted. Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
23 yes, 1 absent.
Item number 4, having received the necessary majority, is adopted as amended. That completes our old business. Moving on to our new business agenda. Now, Mr. Glover, I was going to recognize you when we started up, and I'm going to do that right now. We're going to briefly strengthen the agenda. So I want to recognize you to make a comment, any comments you might like.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to address this to Mr. Novak. I appreciate you coming tonight and speaking. You're a taxpayer, and you deserve the right to do that. And this resolution that we're putting in for the much-needed equipment for the highway department, that is not going to deplete our fund balance. Our fund balance is $7.1 million, and we're doing 2.8 on that. And the point I'd like to make is the previous administration was wanting to spend $2.83 million on the road that didn't benefit but a very few percentage of the taxpayers of Sullivan County. This much needed equipment is going to service and provide for about 90% of the county. And I'm inviting you anytime, if you want to go with me, I'll take you out into the county and show you some of the conditions that the roads are in. This equipment that these men work with is very inadequate equipment, and they do a heck of a job with it under the conditions that they've got. And I will admit, they do have some new equipment up there, but it's few and far between. And I think they do a tremendous job, especially when it snows. And I've got a packet I would love for you to look at, and I'll take you and show you these vehicles. And the one that don't have a floorboard in it, that's got a hole in it, if it would have snowed tonight, I guarantee you these men would have been pushing snow with that truck. And again, like I said, I thank you for coming, and my offer stands. I'm very proud of these men for the job that they do, that they provide for the county, for our children, and our taxpayers to get back and forth to work. A lot of times they go unnoticed, and that's something that I would encourage you to come and see for yourself.
May I respond?
No, sir, you may not. I've deviated, you had your opportunity.
I never
I've
said anything
deviated.
about the man. I never said a word about the man. Good man.
I've deviated from the agenda to make sure that we had discussion and not argument, and I'm not gonna allow argument in this chamber, and I'm not gonna allow comments, unsolicited comments. If you're gonna address this body, you're gonna come to the well and be properly recognized during the proper time. I appreciate you all being here, but we do have to maintain some order. I cut the commissioner off, and as chairman, it's my prerogative to recognize him out of order. And any other commissioner can raise their hand and say you've done something that we don't. We'll vote on whether we recognize him. I don't see any commissioners that have an objection to allowing him to do that. So, and we will keep these discussions in this chamber. Mr. Glover, you're recognized on item number 5.
I would like to read something here, if I could. It's in your package. Sullivan County Highway Department is to provide a safe, continuously improving, cost-effective system of the roads, bridges, and drainage to allow for the safe movement of vehicles and goods throughout the county. In this process, the department will promote the economic vitality of the region and be responsive to the needs of the citizens of the county. It is this purpose of these photos to share our sincere interest to promote our mission as we serve Sullivan County citizens. Please accept the scope of these photos relative to some adequate equipment as a backstory of how we are hindered as we do the highway department work hard to fulfill our mission. It is our intent to achieve established goals that can be better accomplished through a transition to more operation-friendly equipment. We truly believe that the highway department personnel providing that extraordinary work is being accomplished with the worst of resources. Please allow us to extend our appreciation as you consider our request. And that's a mission statement from our Sullivan County Highway Commissioner, Scott Murray. And I think that says a lot. And Mr. Crawford last work session was talking about a paint machine. When these men go out and pave a road, a lot of times they're having to wait a month, 2 months to get these roads striped. And that's in danger to our taxpayers and our citizens. And with this machine, the highway department workers, when it's paid, they can get these roads striped and make it safer for our citizens. The other equipment that we've got listed in there, when you look at the pictures, floorboard out of these trucks, the road grader that we got on the upper end, it's a 1980 some model. And I think these men are dedicated to make our roads safer. And I would ask for the support on this. It's $2,815,000 to purchase much needed equipment to continue providing maintenance, repair, and construction of the roadways in Sullivan County. Mr. Murray's got a list of equipment here that will be traded in. I can't give you the cost of what the trade-in values will be on that, but I'm sure that money that will be brought back into his fund balance, and he'll give us a report on that at that time when it happens. Again, I appreciate your support on this, and I'm sure the highway department does too, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if there is any.
Mr. Glover renews his motion for adoption. first reading. You wish to waive the rule on this?
We done a waiver of the rules.
To waive the rule for the immediate introduction and adoption of item number 5. Seconded by Commissioner Harper Rose. We have a list.
And I would like to say that everybody that votes yes, we had a lot of people that asked to be added on as co-sponsors, and we did add some of those on, but everyone that votes yes will be a co-sponsor, and I thank them for that.
Without objection, everyone voting in the affirmative on the resolution itself will be adopted as co-sponsor. Commissioner Crawford, you're recognized.
Mr. Mayor, with your approval, I have a couple of questions for Commissioner Murray.
We will recess and ask Mr. Murray to come and vote. Mr. Murray, welcome. We'll go into recess while Mr. Crawford asks you a question.
Scott, first of all, how many approximate paved miles of roads do we have in Sullivan County? The actual paved miles?
Paved miles, we've got 954 miles of road.
954. Of those 954 miles, approximately how many miles right now need to be striped? 500?
I'd say more closer to 800 miles.
800 miles.
Our biggest complaints for the last several months has been on striping. There's not a day goes by that we don't get a call. Need striping done. Some of the striping are gone. I mean, it's really a safety issue.
I have more complaints about the striping of roads in my district than anything else. And I travel those roads, and when it's wet at night, it is dangerous. It is dangerous. How are we now striping these roads? How's this being done?
Well, we contract it out every year. We contract it.
And I understand that's at about the tune of $350 per mile?
Per line mile, $350 per line mile for them to stripe the road. And if we gave, with this machine, we've crunched the numbers, and we can do it ourselves for right around $184 a line.
So with the cost of the machine being about $80,000, the best of my calculations, and I cipher like Jethro, it may not be exactly right, but if you pave 200 miles, if you just stripe 200 miles, that machine would be paid for. And you're saying right now we're somewhere way over the 500.
Yeah, way over 500 miles that really needs striping.
I have a problem with sometimes with this much money being spent, but for what it's doing for the citizens of our county, I endorse this 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Mr. Crawford, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to support this resolution, and, some of you were here, some of you weren't, but, during the snowstorm, some of us had the opportunity to ride with some of these fellows and see what they do. The truck I was in, I had on a t-shirt, a flannel shirt, an insulated shirt, a sweatshirt, and a jacket. The heater didn't work that well. I had on 2 pair of socks, my hunting boots, thermal underwear, a pair of sweatpants, and blue jeans. So.
Had the window down.
No, we didn't have window. We did have a window. But where I'm going with this is, that they did a good job with the equipment they worked with. One of the fellows that was working on another end of the county got stuck, and we went and pulled him out, and then some other fellows had to come over and pull us out, and it was a team effort, and like I said, these boys planned their work and worked their plan, and that goes a long way in my book, and I fully support this resolution.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. I support this resolution, but I appreciate Mr. Novak coming forward and speaking, and so I'd like to add a little context to this. Mr. Novak is right when he says that this is an unusual situation to replace this amount of equipment at one time. But in the just 6.5 years that I've been the commissioner, we've had 4 different highway commissioners. We've had a lot of turmoil. it's caused problems in terms of the management of this fleet. The equipment that's going to be replaced is very specialized equipment. It's not what you'd find in just any motor pool. This is specialized to a highway department. And it's not just the number of years we're talking about, it's the operating hours on the equipment. So yes, I find it unusual to have to replace this at one time, but the commission does have an oversight responsibility, and we will exercise that, and I will yield the rest of my time to my friend John Gardner.
Mr. Gardner, you got 2 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was also going to ask Commissioner Broughton if he had a picture of that outfit he had on, but that's okay.
I'll give you a picture of my dog.
I've seen your dog. I guess this would be a question for Commissioner Murray. I don't mean have you keep sitting around us like we're at church. It's a saying I hear a lot. It's easier to stay in good shape than to get in good shape. And referencing equipment, could you tell the commission about any plan you may have as far as a program to replace as you go, as opposed to having to replace all at once again in the future? So.
First step in that is, we buy our equipment out of capital outlay money. And we need to increase our capital outlay money, and each year we can buy. Our capital outlay right now is $500,000 a year. Okay, you take that 5, that's a lot of money. But if we have to buy a grader at $300,000 and one dump truck at $100,000, that money, that $500,000 is gone pretty quick on 2-3 pieces of equipment. So our intentions are to gradually raise our capital outlay every year. Buy new dump trucks, new mowing machines, and we do have good equipment. We've got some new equipment. We've got our snow removal equipment. Todd, it's all not like that. So. But
You just got left.
we just we want to try to increase our capital money and buy more equipment each year.
Thank you. Mr. Vance, you're recognized.
Well, I'm gonna support this resolution, but I just wanted to, and I know Scott will remember this because he's been around a long time. Back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, the county, and not blaming fault on anyone, the county for many years did not have any type of program to replace equipment. And I remember even back in times that the county would go to the state auction at Dandridge and in Nashville, and they would buy old used trucks and dump trucks from the surplus to bring back to Sullivan County that was used by TDOT. And I'm sure if you looked at some of the equipment he's trying to replace, there's probably some of that up there still being operated. I'm going to support this. And the reason I would support this, and it is a lot of money, and when I first saw the resolution, the first thing I said, gosh, that's a lot of money. We don't want to get ourselves financially in trouble. And then when I found out how much they've actually saved in reserve funds and so forth, and this is going to be a capital expense to put the inventory back up to where it needs to be, and it's going to have longevity. You're going to reduce the amount of hours and parts and so forth to keep the antiquated equipment operating. It's just a smart decision to do. And the highway department is a business. It's in the business of paving roads and striping roads. And there's periods of time you have to put money into your business. You have to put money into capital purchases to bring your stock or bring your inventory or bring your equipment up to go forward. So it's a good move. And it's not costing us anything. We're allowing him to spend his money. I'm sure he'll buy good equipment. This equipment probably will still be here being used in this county, knowing the way the county's done things over the last 100 years. It'll start to be here when we're all sitting in a nursing home or dead in the grave. So that's why I support it, and I understand that we may want to say, well, you need to question about the expenditures, you may question about this stuff, but I think this is a justifiable resolution at this time to put capital improvements into our highway department. That's just my 2 cents worth. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Mr. King, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I think if we go back and look at our past history, we can, probably figure out why we were in the shape we're in as far as our equipment. I know back when I was on the commission before and there was a downturn in the economy, we didn't have the money to replace these trucks. And I know that when I was on the commission before, I sponsored a resolution to get 4 dump trucks, tandem dump trucks. And it took every bit of the money, extra money that we had just to do that. And they've patched, and they're on patches now. And then, if you all remember when the fuel prices went up and we was paying $3 and $4 a gallon for fuel, the petroleum was part of all this, you know. Tires and everything that you have to do with this equipment was costing us more, plus the equipment itself. So, you know, I remember, we run out of tar. But anyway, I don't know, I went to some mechanic schools, I didn't get that far. But anyway,
I'm losing control.
we're losing control. But anyway, we didn't have the money to buy a tanker full to bring in to our asphalt plant down here to mix asphalt with. So that's where we've been. And now we've got a fuel tax that is helping us tremendously coming in, and you know, our taxes are up and stuff. So you know, now we've got some money, and you know, got to say that also that you know there's been some money kept back and conserved. So now we've got $7.1 million, and it's time to spend some money to update it so these guys can go out. And we're all time harping, and you know, our roads are in bad shape, and they're in bad shape. Well, we need to be paving 50 miles next year. But we can't pave 50 miles if we don't have the equipment to do it with. So you can't, you know, complain to these guys, we're not paving enough roads, when you've got a bunch of junk equipment that you're trying to work with, and then every time they break down, you're losing time. So I commend these guys back here. They do a great job with what they've got and what we can afford to give them. And sometimes that's not enough, but you know, we've come a long ways, and hopefully this will help us get to a point to where we can catch up on our roads and get us, you know, 50 miles a year. That's still a long ways when you're paving 954 miles of road. You know, this county is a big, long county. There's a lot of area, but there again, thank you all for the job that you all do, and I appreciate every time I drive across these roads in Sullivan County, I know who's taking care of them. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everything everybody said here is right on and everything. And if you live in a rural area, some do, some don't. This really hits close to home. It affects everything from, you know, of course, everybody's lives. I've actually seen the highway department actually go the extra distance for funerals, getting to cemeteries when there was times when they went ahead and had the funeral. And on the lighter side, I can tell you that the highway department, they keep equipment so long, get so much use out of it. These guys actually named their trucks and some of the stuff. And of course, some of the names they give them, I can't repeat that. But, they do always do a good job. And I just want to publicly tell them they know they do and stuff. Everyone. The section foremans, Mr. Jason Miller out in my area, and I think he actually is Dwight in Herschel's area too. He's always somebody that you can talk to, and he'll say, I'll see what I can do, I'll talk to my boss and stuff. So Jason and the rest of you, I would appreciate that. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Morrell. Commissioner Harper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I first want to commend Commissioner Glover for bringing this resolution to us and doing such a fine job of presenting it with all the evidence, pictures, and information. It's really good to be able to look at and read about what all things are with the department and where the needs are. I also want to commend Larry Bailey for working with us with the oversight committee, making sure that the funds is going to be utilized and not be depleted from that fund. And so there's a lot of people that really deserve a lot of things that goes around. Also, the men at the highway department, women, they do such an outstanding job, and we appreciate every time that we have a snow or something goes wrong with the road that we can call them, the highway department, and they're Johnny on the spot. So that really makes me feel good being chairman of the elected committee, which is the oversight committee for the highway department. And I want to thank our committee for looking at this resolution in a viable way and trying to do everything we can to be a partner with the agency that need this equipment. So my thanks to Commissioner Glover for bringing this resolution forward, and I plan to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. As I look back through the crowd, I see many employees, and I want to personally thank each of you for doing a good job. And I've been on the commission over 12 years, and I went through, took points, and anytime I've had an issue and I've called them, they have always been right on top of it, took care of it, and not only that, returned a call to me to let me know what was going on. And I just want to personally thank you for coming tonight. A lot of good support, and you do know that you need new equipment.
Thank you. Seeing the board empty, Commissioner Glover renews his motion for the immediate introduction and adoption of item number 6. Co-sponsored by those voting in the affirmative, requires 16 votes for passage. When the board item, please cast your vote on item number 5. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? That's our take.
23 yes, 1 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, item number 5 is adopted as presented. Next up is, we have item number 6 is on the consent calendar, 7 is on the consent calendar. And Commissioner Mary, I've not been to a love fest like this in a long time. You would think all these commissioners have a road in their district. And I would think you might be good cops. Thanks, Scott. Okay. Next up, item number 8. Mr. Morrell, you're recognized on item number 8.
So let me catch up with this.
You're on, man.
Yeah, that's gonna be a first reading.
First
It
reading.
hasn't been before the.
Without objection, item number 8 is passed for first reading. Next up on the agenda is item number 10, on the consent calendar. Commissioner Stanley, your rest. Commissioner Jones, what were you?
I just wanted to say, I pulled we did it on consent, and I forgot to mention it, that the register of deeds, has already been filed with the state. They've already got a resolution with the state. We're just being in support of that. So
That was on consent.
that was on consent. I just wanted to make everybody aware it's already in the middle.
Thanks, Sam. You're filling Mr. Hood's seat just exactly as I remember. Thank you. You folks don't know Mr. Hood. Commissioner Stanley, you're recognized on item number 10.
to close and abandon and removal of a county road from, a cul-de-sac at the end of Center Drive located in Boone Lake Acres subdivision. The highway department has been out and looked at it, and they've agreed to close the road off, and we will not have to maintain it or pave it or anything anymore.
Is this on first reading, Andrew, or you want to waive the rule?
First reading.
First reading. Thank you. And then the record passage on first reading. That completes our agenda as we have it published. We have a few items. If you will indulge me, go back to Sam.
We have item 11.
I'm sorry, this must be a resolution at the bottom. Okay. Everybody's holding it up. Let me see if I have it in my file. I don't have it on my agenda. I've got item 11 in my file. So I know who to recognize as soon as I read it. Mr. Sam Jones, you recognize on item number 11.
This is a bridge naming for a resident of Sullivan County, a young man that was killed in Iraq. First one from Sullivan County, from Kingsport area. And we're requesting that Tennessee State Highway 93, and I got the bridge and the location numbers from TDOT. It crosses Horse Creek down to Sullivan Gardens area, and that it be named as the Corporal Robbie Glenn Light Memorial Bridge. I'm not going to read through this. I think most of you have already read through it. All of the family are still around in this area. His mother and father are both living. And I'm putting this on waiver of rules because we need to pass it and get it to the state to get it on the agenda. It'll go as a private act. And the commissioners that are in the area, the south area, are all on here. That I would ask that anybody that votes in the affirmative be added on as we send it down to Commissioner Wilson.
You've heard the explanation. Commissioner Jones moves to the immediate introduction and passage of item number 11, seconded by Colton, Stanley, and Starnes, and those commissioners voting in the affirmative on the vote. Commissioner Shaw, you're recognized.
I served in the 2nd Brigade, 4th Infantry Division, and I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Without objection. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. On item number 11, when the board open, please cast your vote. Requires 16 votes for passage. Has everyone voted? Anyone wish to change your vote? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
23 yes, 1 absent.
Having received the necessary majority, item number 11 is adopted. Now, I'll check my packet before I say we're through. We're through. Indulge the chairman, if you would, on appointments. I left off one appointment requested by the library board and our director there. We have a imbalance on the board. The board requires a certain number of males and females. Commissioner Blaylock has served on the board. When Commissioner Morrell left the board, that has a man short. And we replaced Commissioner Morrell with Commissioner Blaylock. So Commissioner Blaylock has graciously agreed to retire from the board until the next election of the board, the library board in Sullivan County, and Commissioner Cross has graciously accepted the appointment. So if I could get a motion to appoint Commissioner Cross, Commissioner Gardner, Commissioner Calvin, anybody else, Stanley, Woods, Comfort, all voting in the affirmative. We'll be co-sponsored. I won't call every name now, but we have a motion on the floor, properly seconded. We don't have this on the board, so I'm gonna ask for a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. I'll close it before anybody or others, Andrew. Thank you for being willing to serve, Judy. We look forward to you rejoining the board in July. That cleans up my act, the things that I forgot, but we have one other thing, Sam, that,
You'll find on your desk, when we went to the, county commissioners meeting over in Jonesboro, I think it was 6 or 7 of us went. I didn't put another one on your desk because you already got one of these. We went over this in that training. It's one of the better summations of Robert's Rules of Order on different actions that we may take in a commission. It's laid out real well. And I've given the head copy, and all the commissioners should have one. If you don't, come and see me. But it's just a good piece to have in your notebook or in your desk if you got a question about how something's being done. And just appreciate it. Thank you.
I think that I thank you. I'm not sure. I can see those things flying out the desk drawer when I make a ruling, but that's all right. Thank you, Sam. We're not near through. I said we finished the agenda. Mr. Crawford, I recognize you.
I just wanted to make an announcement.
Go ahead, Bob.
This past Saturday, I attended a show out at the Ag Center, Ramsey Ag Center, and Chris Ramsey, the UT Extension man this year, I just thought it'd be nice if he could kind of give us his take on what went down out there and how successful it was, or whether it wasn't. I know one thing, my wife spent a lot of money on the auction. But I ate well because of it.
We'll go ahead and recess to hear Chris' report on the Farm Expo. Chris?
Okay, apologize for my lack of voice. Went to bed one night healthy and woke up a mess. So, anyway, thank goodness some drugs were getting there. We did have a really awesome event this past weekend. We worked with the Ag Center Board, worked with Kingsport Times News, Johnson City Press. The coordinator there was Richard Clark, and it took about 6 months to get that event planned. But we had 4,000 people Saturday and Sunday. His goal was 3,000 as we kept talking, and we thought 3,000 was a lot. We're used to events, 200 or 300, and 3,000 seemed like a big number. But I think our facility handled those 4,000 really well. We had many comments from vendors and the public about how nice the facility was and how well it really hosted that event compared to other places where it had been in the past. Being an Ag Farm Expo, it was kind of in a suited place for it. And we look forward to them coming back next year. They're really excited about 2020. As well as other events such as a rodeo in April and other groups that are going to be coming, and maybe a boat show and all kinds of things. So I think we're really beginning to see the community impact that the center is making when we see the events like we just had last weekend. So we're sure excited.
Thank you, Chris. We appreciate you and the board. We have board members here with us, and Commissioner Keating. And again, I think it's going to have a tremendous economic impact on Sullivan County, and certainly brings recognition to a group of very important people here. So thank you for your report.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Now I have to bring up, I think something that's kind of been burning up phone lines for the last few days, and as it should. I told you at work session on Thursday night that at what I felt like a consensus of the commission to investigate the county sewer agreement and its application on current issues. I did had discussions with, Bristol officials and, shared with them our county attorney's interpretation of the agreement. And, I think the commission, had consensus on the county attorney's opinion. And, so I asked the county attorney to take the next step in the agreement. And it's important that we understand that it was an agreement. 97, 98, 96, whenever it was. It wasn't an agreement. It wasn't a grievance hearing. It wasn't anything. It was that a county commission came together with our city government and made an agreement for preparing for economic development for the county areas that did not have the infrastructure necessary for that. In their wisdom in setting it up, they knew that there would be disagreements along the way at some time. And they set it up not to go to court, not to sue each other, not to debate each other, they set it up in a way that we don't have to do that. We set it up in a way that goes from mediation to arbitration, and each partner has that opportunity. So the next step was mediation. So we have notified Bristol that there was consensus to ask. They disagree that the application that we have asked them to consider is under the county city sewer region. So naturally, the next step was mediation. But I took that action on your part. I didn't ask you because time being of the essence. So we notified that, knowing that I could come back to you and say, okay, we've taken that next step. Do you really want to do that? That's where we are. There's no animosity in this. It doesn't involve anything else. That agreement is still effective. There's no disagreement on that. Work to the great benefit of the county. Now, there's been some conversation, and properly so, about what obligations that the county may still have, and we're saying that Bristol might have an obligation. And so there's been conversation about that, but the issue I want you to decide on tonight, and I'm going to ask you to vote on it, is this: should we proceed with arbitration or mediation? And as we thought you wanted to do. Now, that doesn't, if you decide not to, that doesn't move the opportunity to do it next week with more deliberation, more consideration, or whatever. It doesn't close any doors if you decide not to. If you decide to do so, then I will instruct the county attorney to go about setting up the system. So, as I say, I know some of you have had difficulty dealing with this, and I know we represent the entire county. Nearly half of our commissioners here represent the incorporated area. And in their wisdom, they said that's where we didn't have to sue ourselves. We just had to have a discussion, and it will be a discussion. It won't be an argument if we choose to go that way. This is brought about by, obviously, a resolution that was defeated, having to do with the sewer proposed to serve the middle school. I'm not going to characterize that except to say that the county commission has acted responsibly, whether it was adopted or not. You've acted responsibly in the way that you felt you should. There are other alternatives. Our school system can look at their alternatives to address that problem. You've got to remember, our school system was given $88 million to construct 2 schools. We're at the start of that process. And so we're not at the end where there's no money. We're at the start of the process. There have been statements made tonight that we're at the end. We'll see what's going to happen, and we'll have to see. I have confidence and I hope that they will fulfill their responsibility to do this as efficiently as possible. But I don't want to mix those two things. We've got an agreement here. We think it might assist the county. And it might not. That's what we're deciding. So, Mr. County Attorney, do you have, I want to recognize you, Dan, because Dan's been a great value to me as we move through this to determine how we move through it. And I just want to make sure if he has any comments that he wants to make, we have to recognize him.
I do have
one comment, and that would be that the section provided initially for mediation, and if that is not successful, then it provides for the immediate succession into arbitration. And so we keep talking about whether we want to go to mediation. I would ask that we at least make clear, if you want us to come back, let's assume we vote to mediate and it's not successful, do we need to come back and ask you for another vote before we go to arbitration, or are we just voting to proceed through the procedure as it's set forth in the sewer agreement?
I would ask that the motion would be that we take the one single step to give mediation, and that this group have the opportunity to revisit that then. So, and the way I like to do this is I'd like to have a motion in the positive that the motion says that we proceed with mediation, and the yes vote means that we do, and the no vote means we don't. And that any further enforcement of the agreement will come back to this commission for decision. The results of mediation, and then any enforcement of other provisions will come back to this. I'd like, I don't know if you got that motion as I said it, but does anyone like to make that motion? That a yes vote is to move on to ask Bristol to join us in a mediation. A no vote is that no, we want to continue to look at the item. And it will be before us again, I'm sure. So a no vote doesn't end it forever. A yes vote doesn't end it forever. We'll make sure that the decision is made right here. Anyone want to make that motion? Yes, Dan, I'm sorry.
I would like to clarify one other matter. In mediation, the whole procedure is you come to a solution between the parties. Nothing is decided by the mediator. He attempts to bring the parties together. So my question is this. If you do make a motion to mediate and it does pass, one of two things: you either give the mayor the authority to make offers to settle the dispute, or you condition the mediation on us. If we do work out a settlement, we bring it back to you for approval. Because in mediation, you work out a solution. So somebody would need the authority to work out a solution, or we would either need to settle it subject to your approval, one of the two.
Did you get that? And I'm going to recognize those who've asked to speak. And I would ask you to consider that the County City Sewer Agreement is effective until 2023, I believe. And if there are obligations on the part of the city or of the county, we're ready to fulfill those obligations. You've been committed by previous commissions to do that, and so we have to be ready to do that. That's why it's a separate item. If it comes up that we have an obligation we need to fulfill, it'll be brought back to you, and I do believe the county commission will fulfill the obligations in the contract that we sign. So, Commissioner Cross, you're recognized.
So I understand that as you want it passed, or as we're going to vote on this, that it is one step only just for mediation, not for mediation and arbitration. And it would come back before us before any kind of arbitration might happen.
I think that's a prudent way to do it.
All right. If that's the case, if we go to mediation and it does have to come back before us before arbitration, and we fail to go through with arbitration, what are the consequences with that?
I would think none. We've just, if we don't reach an agreement on mediation, I'll come back and say, we did not reach an agreement on the issues that's before us, which is the sewer line. Do you feel confident enough as the county commission, representatives of the city and of the unincorporated area, do you feel confident enough to accept an arbitrator's decision? And we want to vote on that.
And if that, my question was, if we voted no to an arbitrator, where did that leave?
It's over.
Yes, sir.
It's over. But the county city sewer agreement is still in effect. Any agreement that we have fulfilled or not fulfilled, or they have fulfilled, it's still in effect. It hasn't affected that agreement. So it just ends that question.
Yes, sir.
If we don't reach agreement in mediation and don't want to go to arbitration. Is that correct, Mr. Briggs?
I think that's
I'm gonna leave you on, Dan, so you,
That is correct. I guess the lawyer in me wants to say if, for example, Bristol raises an additional issue, then Bristol would be in control of their issue if they wanted to go to arbitration. But as far as our issue, this question about this collector line to service that new middle school, if we wanted to drop it at any time, we could drop it.
surprise that lawyer you can, Dan. Not really. You through,
Yes, sir, thank you very much.
thank you, Andrew. Commissioner Crawford, you're recognized.
I guess this would be to Dan. Dan, are there any repercussions by us going, the county, against the county, by us going into this arbitration? Or mediation, I'm sorry.
Well, the only one that comes to mind and has sort of somewhat surfaced occasionally in this discussion would be that if in the process Bristol chose to raise an issue on their own behalf, you know, in other words, if we stirred the pot, something else came up. But as far as us,
That's a separate issue.
as far as any repercussions for us to ask Bristol that we believe the sewer agreement compels them to pay for and install the collector line, is there any repercussions? You know, I don't see any. I mean, we're just asking them to comply with the contract. If we go to mediation, we can't work it out. We can't work it out. I mean, that, and then if we don't arbitrate, I know, to answer your question, I don't see any repercussions, no.
Okay. Commissioner Hutton.
I just want to make sure I heard correctly. So if there are any unfulfilled obligations, that the county is prepared to meet those, since the agreement is still in effect?
That would be my interpretation as the county mayor. I would come to you and recommend that we adhere to contracts that past commissions had executed. It would probably be your choice. You can sell the courthouse if you want to, but I would recommend that we fulfill obligations that we have.
Okay, I mean, from what just in conversations I've had with folks in Bristol, there does seem to be at least 3 projects from Bristol's perspective that haven't been fulfilled yet, and I think the cost is about $4.5 million. That was the number given to me, so I do know that there is some indication from some thoughts, not an official position or anything like that the pot has been stirred to some extent. And you know, going towards mediation is probably for the sewer line. I think from Bristol's perspective, from what I've been told, they don't feel that it's their responsibility to build the sewer line. I think there's lots of questions about that.
But I don't think we probably ought to debate that. You're not, Mark, you're stating a position,
Right.
and I understand that.
Well, all I'm trying to do, Mr. Mayor, is just to convey that this discussion, even about mediation, has prompted discussions in Bristol about unfulfilled aspects. So I'm just trying to let folks know that.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate you bringing it up. If I may address it, anybody wants me to stop talking, raise your hand, I'll quit talking, but I think the last, that was 2009, the last project that we did, or was it 2006?
The agreement, I think the last project's 2006, but we looked at some financial documents, which it's hard to tell what those projects were for, but they showed.
2006 approved, so we're 12 years beyond it, and it was a 25-year agreement. My feeling is that they had a project they wanted and it was important to Bristol that they would do that. They would come to the county commission and say, we have this agreement. And,
can I?
Yeah, you're still on now, and I'm not debating with you.
Right, I'm not trying to debate either. Yeah. What I was told, what's been communicated to me about that, Bristol was interested. They made contacts with Sullivan County. That was during an economic shift. That there was an attempt in previous administrations to address those projects. So there wasn't as if they just let it go. They addressed, they couldn't do it, it was put off. And so, I mean, that was what was communicated to me. I have the 3 projects here that they're talking about. And so,
probably hard to reconstruct those discussions. I really think, I know that our partners in Bristol are very confident and were aware of the agreement, and I think if there was something they wanted, I think we would go through the process. And again, I wasn't the mayor at that time, I don't think. Well, I wasn't. But I think I would give a positive recommendation to fulfill our contractual obligation.
Well, the document that I received, your signature is on it.
I signed the resolution that was passed by Commissioner Harr and Commissioner Vance, changing, amending the appendix to the act. There was no debate that I remember and no disagreement. It passed with 22 positive votes. So there wasn't disagreement when those projects were added. And it was open to do during the last 12 years. Now, if they suddenly decide in the 13th year that they're going to do those projects, as I say, I bring it to you, and I would expect you to adhere to the contract. Is that sufficient, Mark? Like I said, I don't want to be argumentative, but
I'm not, I'm just trying to pass along information.
Sure.
I mean, one of the things I would say is that, I guess the order of this seems a little wonky to me. I mean, I don't remember us having this conversation before last Thursday.
how we did.
I mean, in the sense of an overwhelming consensus of the commission to go ahead with even sending the letter, that seems, I mean, this has probably been adjudicated even before
So
we got to this point.
we get to this point, and I remember very vividly the discussion that we had about every commissioner, not maybe in session, but every commissioner I talked to said, would you see if you could work this out with them? Would you see if you could work it out with them? We couldn't work it out with them. And that was the logical next step. We are a step beyond where I would like to be right now. I'd like to be voting on whether we write that letter. And as I said, time of this is the essence. A positive vote tonight that we don't want to go forward removes that letter. So revenge politics doesn't work in the long term.
I'm not sure who that's aimed at, the revenge.
Well, I'm saying the likelihood that Bristol would do revenge politics, I don't think it's there.
I don't think it is either.
I don't think they're apt to pick up a project and say, okay, let's see if we cram this down the throat. I don't think that happened. I think more of them than that. They've had 12 years.
But I think what I'm saying is what was communicated to me within that 12-year span, they did make attempts to try to get those projects taken.
We probably need to research that, and if you want to, our county attorney to research that, we could see if there's a resolution been before the commission.
Well, what I think was they were going, because the document was still in effect, I think the city manager was making a call to the county to say, when are we gonna get on these projects, and that they were consistently delayed for whatever reason. That's what was communicated to me.
That may well have happened, and the document provides for the next step. Do you agree or disagree? If, let's just take a hypothetical, and I hate hypotheticals, but if the city manager called me and said, hey, we want this project. I'd say, well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that we're responsible for it. Or may agree. I mean, obviously somebody said they didn't agree with it. And Bristol was open to take the step, but I don't think there would have been any animosity in it, but they decided for some reason not to pursue it, I guess. Is that reasonable?
I think they probably erred on the side of
Caution?
being, the way it was described to me is being nice, not pushing it back in that 12-year span. For whatever reason they chose not to pursue it, as you all have said many times, that document is still in effect. That's why we're even having a conversation about it.
And we don't know that, so.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just,
I think, I accept your explanation that being nice. I agree with that. I think that may well be it. But let me say, at this point, that I probably overstepped my bounds as chairman, responding to what I thought was a consensus of the commission. So take that for what it's worth, and you can censure me, or you can scold, or whatever, but I think I've got it someplace that you all probably never, would not have, some of you at least, would not have chosen to be in. I think we have yes and no votes. So I will admit that I've got you in a place you might not want to be. Ms. Stanley.
Thank you, Chairman. The way that I look at this is we have a legal bonding contract that none of us here, maybe one or two, that was aware of it. It's not nothing that we did. And I don't feel like that we should take the responsibility and move it forward until we have clarification of this contract, whether it's still in effect or not. I think that our attorneys with the city and the county during mediation, hopefully that they can come up to an agreement on whether or not that they're going to pursue this contract, because we've got other things in the future that we have to look at here that we're gonna be right back here at square one. And even if we do go through mediation, or if we don't go through mediation, that's not gonna keep anybody from coming back and saying, well, we done this, so come and pay for us, give us the money for that. So that's the way that I look at this. I feel like that our attorney needs to go to mediation and get to the bottom of this, so we will know what we are looking at with future projects.
Dan, could I get you to address that, because I think maybe you spoke to it earlier, saying the contract is in place.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, attorneys don't decide whether the contracts are still in effect, because I'm of the opinion that it is, but it may be that Bristol attorney is of the opinion that it's not, which is exactly why we go to mediation and arbitration. And I, of course, work for you. I don't decide whether to enter into mediation with other lawyers. That's not my choice to make. That's your choice to make. So as far as whether or not this contract is valid, you know, I could have an opinion that it is, and Bristol could have an opinion that it's not. That's what you mediate, that's what you arbitrate. And that could be an issue. The second issue would be whether or not Bristol, if the contract, and of course, if you mediate, the mediator doesn't decide this stuff. He just attempts to bring the parties together. And if it goes to arbitration, the arbitrator would decide that, whether the contract's valid or not, still valid. But he will also be asked to decide a second issue, which is whether or not the contract obligates the city of Bristol to fund and construct the collector line.
Well, I think what Commissioner Hutton and I were talking about was that I haven't had a call from Bristol, anybody in Bristol, telling me that they thought the contract was or wasn't in effect. The discussion I had with the city manager and the mayor was that we just don't think it applies. The implications that we've heard is that there may be other obligations the county have out there. So I think the implication is the contract's still in effect from both sides. What I say? Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we first brought this up about a month or so ago, Dan commented on it that we had a very good case. Since time is the essence to the school department and the school board moving forward with the middle school. If we have made promises to Bristol, and those promises are brought before us in the commission, and we have to vote on them to move Bristol forward or create economic development in this county, if that's what that agreement does, that's what we need to do. We need to honor the agreement. But in the meantime, I think we need to, I'll make a motion to go ahead and send this forward to vote on sending it to mediation, since time is the essence for the middle school, and get this voted on tonight if possible.
Okay, that motion is in order. Do we have a second? Second, by Commissioner King. Okay, we have a proper motion on the floor. I'm not going to go away from folks that want to talk on this. And if it's, agreeable to the sponsor, I would like not to cut these people off.
That's fine, that's understandable.
I'll recognize, if you'll withdraw your motion, I'll recognize you, after all commissioners that want to speak on this matter. That's agreeable. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Broughton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, we've all sat through these meetings and heard this, that, and the other, and I guess my main concern is we're under a legal contract with the other cities, with Bristol and Kingsport. We're in a legal and binding contract. If we don't adhere to that, what good is it to sign a contract? What good is it to have an agreement? You know, that tells everybody our word's not worth anything. Now, if we want to vote to kill this and move a different direction, that's a different animal. But, you know, where I'm at, if we're going to leave this contract in place, we don't have a choice but to adhere to the terms of it. But if somebody wants to kill the contract and move a different direction, that's an option. You know, and as Mr. Street said, maybe the arbitration, that's what they'll come to, is it'd be everybody's best, or mediation. Maybe that's what they'll come to, maybe we need to kill it. Because whatever we do now, we're gonna be going through again on Lynn Road. So we need to solve all the problems now, not kick the can down the road and be having hours and hours of meetings on the exact same situation. So, you know, where I'm at with it is, I think we should move ahead with mediation. And if the mediators come up and say, you need to kill this contract and look at a different result, that's fine. But doing nothing, if we have irritated the folks in Bristol, not on purpose, if I was them, I'd go ahead and ask for whatever we were supposed to give, even if we went a different direction now. You know, so we need to adhere to the terms of the contract or kill the contract, in my opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Locke, you're recognized. Thank you. Mr. Cross.
I just want to make sure, and before we vote on this, and you mentioned this before, and I just want to absolutely just write down exactly what does the yes vote mean on this, and what does the no vote?
That's a reasonable request, and
Yes.
I'm going to ask Mr. Glover, when he makes his motion, to let the clerk read what you have got so far and see if you agree with it. We don't have a motion on the floor yet. Andrew asked me to withdraw it, and
Yes, sir.
did. So would you let us go ahead and let these people talk and then clarify? We'll clarify the motion before.
Yes, sir.
Before we ever vote.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If that's all right with you all, we'll have a discussion, then we'll recognize Mr. Glover for the motion that I discussed, not one that you made. We'll discuss that. Is that, we're still okay? Okay. Mr. Shaw, I think.
Well, I think I was next.
I'm sorry?
I think I was next.
Were you next, but I already had you there. You're recognized.
Thank you.
Pat, you're next. Just leave it.
I'm not going to support the mediation. This sewer agreement, one thing that has not been done in this sewer agreement, it says financial feasibility study on petitions for collector lines submitted by the county will be completed in 6 months of submission. In all reality, this 2.7 mile sewer line should be a trunk line. The school system proposed a service line, or you can call it as a collector line.
Mark,
But let me finish my point.
Well,
in trying to deal with this whole thing, I don't think you're going to tie it up in mediation is going to fix the problem. I think it would be better for the county mayor and the city manager of Bristol to sit down to determine where we need to go on this, because here's the long-term effect that bothers me. In 2006, I sponsored a resolution, and I remember this very clearly. City of Kingsport had asked to have some of their projects moved out of sequence, and Bristol agreed to move their projects forward. In 2006, Mr. Venable was the mayor, and he ran for Congress after that, and Mr. Gotti became the county mayor.
Is that necessary?
Okay. It was told on several occasions that because of the downturn in the economy, the Sullivan County did not have money to fund these projects. So the bottom end result will be to this: if we put somebody on the defensive, and mediation will put the city on the defensive, we have got 3 projects that's not been funded, and we got 3 projects still under the sewer agreement, which is 2021 is when it expires. And that's a net cost of $4.4 million. The sewer agreement, when it was established, it was project sensitive. It took the sewer agreement, the city and the county had to agree with each individual project. So the city, when you do a feasibility study, there's only going to be one thing hooked on the other end of the sewer, this collector line, and that's going to be the school. So it's feasibly, it's not going to return enough revenue, so it's not going to be to test the financial feasibility for the city. City could come back and say, well, fine, we'll make it a trunk line. County, spend $4 million, put a trunk line out to the high school or the middle school. I think this needs to be worked out between the county and the city to figure out, instead of putting it into mediation, because what's going to happen in mediation, the county's going to get their witnesses, the city's going to get their witnesses, they're going to come together, they're going to sit down, and we're going to delay this. This could be tied up in mediation for months or years. So, that's why I can't support it. But that's my opinion. You have your own, vote however you want to. But long-term effect, I see danger down the road.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I too oppose mediation. And I can be brief. I have 3 reasons. One, my interpretation of the city-county sewer agreement is simply that Bristol is not obligated to do anything in this particular instance with this sewer line, with this middle school. 2, I think if you asked most of our citizens out here in the county, they'd look at it in a pretty simple way. It's a county school, and we're trying to put a sewer line into a county school. It's a county issue. The city is not involved. 3, there's been too much acrimony between the cities and the county. The cities are already mad at us because of the dispute over school funds that they believe they should have received. They're also mad at us because we still have a lawsuit against the cities that's going before the Tennessee State Supreme Court. The mayor did a wonderful thing in trying to bring us together in regional cooperation. That's the only way we're going to make it, in my opinion, in economic development is working together on this. Economic development has become so difficult that to be the Lone Ranger, one city or one county, is pretty difficult. And we want to be viewed from people on the outside who could bring businesses and jobs in here as folks that get along with each other and can operate efficiently, effectively, and in harmony. And I believe that when you step back and look at the big picture, no good can come of this pressing Bristol on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Mr. King, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Back when the counties got money from the federal government and they decided not to be in the sewer business, and they funded all these cities' sewer plants, that put a hindrance on our county because we cannot expand in places where there is no sewer. If you're looking at it as simply economic development, where we're talking about putting a sewer line, East High School's been there for 50 years. How much development's gone in close to East High School? Very little, for the simple reason, or a lot of it depends because there's no sewer out there. Sullivan County cannot put sewer out there. We don't have that capability because we depend on the cities who have got the treatment plants to treat the sewage that comes out of this area. So, and I think when all this started, I don't think this was a matter of us, and it wasn't for me to, well, we're going to do something to slow the school down or something like that. What I was looking at is the long term, 20 years down the road. What's that area going to look like in 20 years? Is it going to develop? East High School has got a failing sewer plant. It's been there 50 years. It's out of date, and it's at some point in time it's going to have to be replaced. Why not do something to tie all this together? They're talking about putting a elementary school. If you look at the maps of that the school board has presented, there's a square on the back of it for an elementary school. So if you've got an elementary school, a junior high school, and a high school, plus businesses going up Weaver Pike, why not fix this thing to begin with while we're doing it? A 4-inch sewer line is not going to fix this. And it's, if we can't come to agreement with Bristol and sit down, and I've got problems with what has gone on before. I thought that our mayor and the mayor of Bristol would come together and sit down and hash this out. And because what we're hearing is, well, I heard this and I heard this and we've got this. Nobody really knows where we're at because the two parties have not sat down. So that's where I think this needs to go to, is our mayor and the mayor of Bristol and whoever from Bristol needs to sit down and work this out. I think we need to come to agreement with Bristol to put a sewer line out there that would take care of what's going to happen in that area for the next 20 years. If that's going to take some more money from us, be it so. If we owe Bristol money, then, and there's a contract that says we owe Bristol money, then we need to step up the plate and take care of that. But there again, if they've had 12 years to come forward, you know, why haven't they come forward? In those 12 years. I know if I had a contract with somebody and I expected money from them, I'd sure be knocking on the door over a 12-year period to get the money from them. So, you know, it's, and again, going back to regionalism, I think that's what we need to be doing. Let's get along with Bristol. Let's have something that'd be a win-win for everybody. For the school, for Sullivan County, and for Bristol. I think Bristol, you know, one school, like Mark said, there's no economic development for that, or economic incentive for them to bring a sewer line for one school. But if you develop that whole area and where you could put another line in to collect and then put that one trunk line in, then you could collect sewage from that whole area, which would justify putting the lines in. That's where we need to be looking at instead of fighting, well, you know, what are we just going to do with one line and that's it, one school or two schools or what? Let's look at that whole area and develop the whole area. And if you're looking at, let's say somebody wants to develop up there today, if they've had to put sewer systems in and collect, you can come on this. What's the size of a lot with sewer, without sewer? Half acre or better, with sewer, 1/3 of an acre to half an acre. So it's, you know, if you look at somebody doing a subdivision, it's not really feasible if you don't have sewage or a sewer line where you can collect your sewage. I'm sorry. I'm getting sewer and sewage. There's too many of them. But anyway, I think that's where we need to be looking at. Not only is this going to be a benefit for the new junior high school, but is it going to be a benefit for that area? And, you know, we've got 3 commissioners, or 2 commissioners here that represent that area. And, you know, where are we going with this area? We're going to let it sit there and do nothing because we don't have a way to get sewer out of that area? or we going to step up to the plate and do something. So I think it's time that, you know, we do something now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. King. Mr. Frost, I was going to recognize you, but let me explain what I'm doing. I'm letting this discussion go a little wider than we should, because the motion's going to be made, and I've got all the history in it that we got now. And I've said before that you're in this place because I made a decision. Now, some of the debate is some of the debate we should have had probably before we requested Bristol to go to mediation. And so that's why I'm letting this discussion go a little wider than just the motion that will be coming. So if I can characterize what we're talking about, if we want to get beyond this, it wouldn't be unreasonable for this commission to say, Mr. Mayor, we wish you hadn't sent that letter. We want to come back and we want to talk about this ourselves, and then we'll decide by vote. I feel like I've put each of you in a position where you have to vote on something that you didn't choose to do so. And I think that's where you find yourself tonight. If tonight you say, Mr. Mayor, I want you to back off that letter and we want to discuss this fully, whether we want you to, as Commissioner Vance says, go sit down with them again, or Commissioner King said, go sit down with them again. I had discussions, we weren't successful. That's why we're where we are. I have no problem with going back, because you have to go back. You go back and you go back and you go back, and I remember his Kissinger going to Paris and discussing. So if that's what this commission wants to do, and then we have those discussions, and I come back to you and say, I'm sorry, we're in an impasse, and you say, okay, Mr. Mayor, we vote as a body tonight to take the next step. And what I'm saying is that I admit I have you in a step beyond where you wanted to be, or where you need to be, in my opinion. Now I'm going to go ahead and get this list. Think about what I just said, if you will, and if it makes any sense to you. Let's go ahead and go on the list. Commissioner Crossbody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To start with, I do not think you overstepped your boundaries. We were at a standstill on a sewer line that we need to this middle school, and we've got to get it done. So if it takes going in and talking to Bristol, I think that Mr. Mayor and Dan all have that capabilities of going there, and then we can decide what we're gonna do next. But, I mean, we put this sewer line off and off and off, and the school's gonna have to have it. So if they're willing to work with Bristol, they don't have to go in there. We can all still be friends. We don't have to part ways. And I've worked with this all day long, trying to decide what to do. And I agree with the mayor that he did not overstep his boundaries. He's doing the right thing. So thank you. I will support this. Thank you.
Let's see, if confession will move us on to the decision, I'll be happy to confess again. Ms. Stark.
I guess my question is for Mr. Bailey, more so, going back to what Commissioner Vance said. He said, in that agreement, there's 3 projects that haven't taken place yet.
That's correct.
That equal $4.4 million. Mr. Bailey, do we have the money to do that?
Well, that's 13 years ago, sorry. We've already done
That's what the price was back in 2006.
We gotta have kind of some order. We can't have a discussion. You ask Commissioner Vance, or you ask Commissioner, Mr. Bailey.
Mr. Bailey.
Let's let Mr. Bailey. He may have qualifications.
Not readily available, no ma'am.
And that's true. And I'm allowing this latitude. We're not voting on that. Let me attempt it, at least if I can, and this is unusual. This county has always met its obligations. And Mr. Brady's right, it's not what we're voting on, but my opinion is this county's always met its obligations. So, is that sufficient? Okay. Mr. Crawford.
First of all, Mayor, don't beat yourself up over this. I think you brought a light to this whole perspective that I had not seen before, and I thank you for that. I thank Commissioner Hutton and Commissioner Vance for bringing more information. My first impression was, hey, there's a law on the book, let's follow it. I didn't know we were gonna not live up to our obligation. And somewhere along the road, apparently they've made contact with us to fulfill our part. And we haven't done that. It just sounds like to me, if we go into this, it's gonna be tit for tat. I don't know whether we're gonna come out ahead or whether we're gonna lose it. And arbitration is not a guarantee of anything. If anything, Mayor, I'd love to see you and the mayor at Bristol sit down together, work up a solution if we can do it. If not, resolve this whole agreement and get on with it. I don't see where we're gonna win. I don't see where Bristol's gonna win in it. We're gonna be arguing back and forth. Well, you owe us this. Well, we want you to live up to your end too. No, it ain't gonna happen. It's tit for tat, I'll guarantee you.
Well, cooler head generally prevail, I would say that, and they're always some emotion and things, and when you back up and look. And I take real liberties with giving my opinion on here, but I think I got it here, so that's why I'm doing that, Commissioner Vance.
I just like to ask the commission to delay this for 30 days and ask the mayor to get with the city of Bristol and let them go over and figure out, without going to mediation. I'm not about suing. I don't sit here and vote to sue against the city or vote against the counties. I think if you set the tone of mediation, then I think that we don't have winners on each side. If, in fact, that the city is responsible to put that collector line out to the high school, that's $1,065,000. If the county has an obligation, and the obligation back in 2006 has changed, and to give you an example, these are the list of locations. One was Paperville Knob. That is definitely a project we need in Bristol. It's $1.5 million back in 2006, 2008. The Beaver Creek Road and the Evans Creek Phase 2 is property that's in the rural area of this county, and because the annexation laws have changed, it came off the table to the city of Bristol that they really have no desire or need to request sewer lines in that area. I think that Bristol will come. I think it's clearly that Bristol has credit, or we have an obligation to Bristol. I feel like that, yes, it's probably not 100% clear about whether Bristol has an obligation about that collector line. So if they did come back and Bristol won, we're going to be back square one. And then if they come back and say we have an obligation for $4.4 million, we still don't win. So I think before we set the tone of mediation, we should be responsible. We need to go over and sit down with them and say, here's our project, here's what we need. What about if they decide to say, well, you know, we're not going to need this money for Beaver Creek Road because we're not going to use it. I was told that. We commit that money to put a trunk line down to the high school. So I think there's a lot of variables here, and I don't like mediation because when you go to mediation, it's like going to Chancery Court and suing your neighbor on a civil matter. You don't talk to your neighbor if you're going to sue your neighbor, right? When you put that wall up between people, and people don't want to communicate like they normally do, and I just don't want that barrier, and I just don't want that to be created. I don't think that's good government with us, and that's why I can't support it. I'm not saying that Bristol don't have a responsibility. I'm not saying that we have full responsibility, but it's clearly not in my mind to know how this is going to work out, but I keep saying the county's going to get down and deal with this situation. So I think we need to go to mediation, guys, after we meet with them. And then if we can't resolve the issue, we'll declare an impasse and we'll go for mediation. But I think we need to delay this for 30 days, ask the mayor to get with Bill Dora and the mayor of Bristol and sit down and determine what our legal responsibility is and what Bristol's legal responsibility. and come up with a compromise to handle this situation. And that will be less money spent on attorneys, there'll be less time taken out for the sewer line for the middle school. We could come back here next month and have an agreement with the city of Bristol, what they're willing to do, what we're able to do, and this thing can be over within 30 days. But that's my opinion. Do whatever you want to. Like I told several of y'all called me, I said, vote your conscience, do whatever you want to. But I just don't want to see the walls between our county and cities.
Mark, I thank you for your comments, but let me make a statement here, and I'll get Dan to back me up. There are no winners and losers in mediation. You either agree and everybody wins, or you disagree and nobody wins. So, but I agree with everything said. Hunter, you're recognized.
Let's take a vote. Can we do that?
I do want to vote on it because I honestly want to do what the commission wants to do, and I think that's the only way I can get there. Now, I've sat here like you all have and listened to opinions, and Rob has been negotiating, and Mark has been negotiating, Dr. Hudson has been negotiating, but we've got a few more on here, and I do want to vote on it, and I think it's the only way that we can move. Otherwise, we're on the track to mediation, because I'm not going to take us off of it till you tell me to. So let's let these four people talk. If you want to vote on, if you want to call a question, you want to vote on calling a question out. You call a question?
Yes, sir.
We have a second.
Second?
We have a second to call a question.
We don't have a motion. It's no motion. It's no motion.
Thank you. That's right. He withdrew his motion. He withdrew his motion. No, I stand corrected. I stand corrected. There's not a motion on the floor. We're in for lack of a better term, we're in the chairman's discussion session. So we don't have a motion on the floor to vote on it or not. If we did, I'd let you call a question and we would beat you. Commissioner.
I just have a quick question. So, did I hear you correctly that you've already met with Bristol Mayor and the city manager?
I met with the city manager. We generally get 2 or 3 times a week. I called him and said, do we need to get together? Can we discuss this on the phone? She said, well, I'm with the city manager. Okay. That's the same thing. Now, those aren't extensive discussions. We did not have a discussion that delves in to the depth that we've got to here. So there may be other around 5 months.
I agree with Mark, and I agree that we should, I don't think we should go to mediation. I think the conversation is what needs to happen. And I just didn't know if in your previous conversations, if you don't feel like that's even a possibility. But it wasn't an extensive conversation.
That's kind of where you start out in each position, each person takes a position. We did not discuss why they shouldn't have that position. It didn't go to a full discussion. Thank you. Commissioner Morrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to expand on Commissioner Vance's remarks. Before we go to arbitration or mitigation and arbitration, I think we should let our mayor sit down with the city of Bristol, whoever that may be, the mayor in the city of Bristol, and see what we can get worked out. And we don't have to wait 30 days. And I don't want to put people on a time frame. That seems like what we've been. We could maybe do this in 2 weeks. And after the 2 weeks, we could have a call meeting if we need to. And we wouldn't have to wait 30 days, and simply the time for that is that would get us into more of an idea of how we're going to deal with what we need to do with this sewer line. And if we need that as a motion, I'd be more than happy to make that motion. But if you would agree to that, Mr. Mayor, as far as the 2 weeks, is that?
Yeah, let me, you asked, I'll tell you. for a motion to him. His motion will decide that. And it will decide it this way. If you vote yes on the motion that he made previously, then we proceed on to mediation, as I've written a letter. If you vote no on the motion that we discussed, that sets us back to square one, and then I'm going to do what the commission asked me to do. And it would require another motion. And because I won't move again without a motion, without direction from this commission. So a yes vote on the motion that we discussed. Move this on to commercial. I don't want to cut off anybody. I'm gonna close the board right now. I'm not gonna. We got to end this sometime. We've got to end this sometime. And Ms. Starnes is the last one to speak, and Herschel is in line to speak. So I'm going to recognize him. I'm going to get down to Alicia and Sam. I just told you I cut the board off.
And you pushed your button.
You know, I just think we need to look at section 12 of this real close.
We're not going to get into debating the sewer agreement tonight. We're trying to decide where this commission goes, Sam, and I don't know.
But that's what this says, Mayor.
What?
Section 12 says, upon written notification, if there's a dispute, that you would take and meet with them and discuss it before we ever go to mediation.
I apologize to the rest of the commission. Sam, you're exactly right. That's exactly where I went to because of section 12. You're exactly right. That's what I think we've said that 2 or 3 times, that the agreement provides for mediation. And that's where I thought the commission wanted us to go, and that's therefore why I went there. Now, I have apologized for this 6 times tonight, and this is the last time.
I apologize to you. I thought you said you didn't have extensive in-depth discussion.
No.
Okay, I apologize.
No, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. I apologize. I've been here for 9 years, and this has been the most difficult thing I've had. So, Herschel, you're recognized.
Gosh. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to pull that motion and give you time to talk to Bristol like we've discussed. I think that's the right thing to do. Instead of doing a vote on it tonight, I feel like the 2-week period, if we can get that worked out, that would be a good thing to do to move us forward with talks with Bristol.
Thank you, Herschel. Anything else? Herschel, Mr. Glover has said he will not make the motion. Mr. Stanley, you got up there with your mic on somewhere, and I don't know how you did that. You got a button. You got a button over there? You're recognized.
My question is, well, you turned me off.
I've done that before.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Anyway, my question is, if we as a body here was to decide to make a motion to not do this, to abide by the contract, the agreement, and dissolve it, would you have to have the cities to vote on that too?
Yes.
Like if the county commission wanted to dissolve this, then the cities would have to vote on it too?
Yes, we could not unilaterally end the sewer agreement.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Ms. Starnes, you're the last man standing. Is there a movie like that?
Maybe I'm just way off base here, but to me, it sounds like Bristol has already said no. Am I off base, or have I misunderstood that Bristol has already said, no, we're not going to do anything?
We had one conversation.
Okay.
And not in depth about the provisions of the agreement. And I will tell you now, if you all were to make a motion request that I meet with the city of Bristol. If that happened, I would meet with the mayor, the city manager, and the attorney. And I would ask Mr. Street to accompany me to any meeting that we had, so we'd have a good record, and we all on the same page.
Well, let's make a motion for you to
That's
go.
theoretical, that's theoretical. Is that?
I'll make a motion for you to go talk to Bristol.
Lisa asked for it, so we've got a motion, second. Yeah, I think we have a consensus on it.
Can we get it done in a 2-week period, Mayor? Can we get it done in a 2-week period like we talked about?
We, everybody's got schedules, and let's attempt to do that. And I will call a special call meeting at your agreement, once we have. You want to go forward like this?
Yes, sure.
Let
Let me just say this.
Before we have crop sale.
Let me just say this, when I called the city attorney at the mayor's request, she told me that, the city manager was of the opinion that the sewer agreement did not require Bristol to fund the collector line, and that she agreed with him.
Thank you. Pat, on the motion. We're on discussion on the motion.
Yeah, I'm asking a question.
Yeah, you're.
I understand what yes means, what's the no?
No means that we have asked Bristol to meet us in mediation. But that's where we are.
No means, I wanna go to mediation.
No says that we're going to mediation. Yes, it says that, Mayor, we want you to meet with Bristol, withdraw the request for mediation.
So there's no third choice?
I'm sorry? Resignation.
Those kind of limited choices there.
Well, we're in discussion on this motion, so is that it? Is this going to have choice? Yes, says Mayor, I want you to go. As I understand the commission requested me to meet with Bristol City officials to discuss this situation. Go ahead, Pat.
I don't want to do either one.
I'm talking to you. I'm sorry?
I don't want to do either one, so I don't know how to vote.
Well, we're on the, Pat, this is the seventh time. I've got us on the track. I've got us on the track that you're gonna have to get me off of with a vote. And that's it. So abstain if you're not comfortable. Commissioner Harper wrote on the motion.
Yes. Two questions I've got for Dan. One is, if I ain't mistaken, you're saying, the mayor is saying that he met with, or requested a meeting with Bristol to discuss the sewer agreement, correct?
No. Dan, go ahead next.
Well, I think you ought to answer that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
I know what you told me.
No, we did not. We asked for a official mediation as provided for in Item 12, and that's what I requested.
Okay, so you're
With a
requesting
formal
a
letter.
mediation.
I didn't say, let's go talk, and we'll spend 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
But right now, we're in I think, a position of enforcing a contract that we're party to.
Right.
And in explaining to Pat, you've got to back me off of that, and this motion will do that.
Mr. Mayor, could I say that in response to Terry's question? I just want to add this in case this is what Terry was asking, and Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong. The mayor came to me and said that he had spoke with both the city manager and the mayor with the question, presentation that the county's of the opinion that Bristol's obligated under the sewer agreement to pay for the collector line, and he was told by both those individuals that they disagreed and said Bristol was not obligated. As a result of that conversation, and this was after the last county commission meeting, when a commissioner here at the end of the meeting asked the mayor to contact Bristol and ask them their position on the sewer agreement. I remember that specifically happening, which he did.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, but the next step is the mediation, correct?
Mr. Mayor came to me and said that he had approached them as he had been requested to do so. He was told by both of them, the mayor and the city manager, that they disagreed. They were of the opinion the sewer agreement did not apply to the collector line. He asked me what the next step was. I pulled out the agreement. You can read the next step yourself. It's mediation. The mayor said, well, just go ahead, contact the city attorney, tell them that we think that we're in that procedure, and we'll cover it when the county commission meets again. And that's what I did. And as I said, when I talked to the city attorney, she told me that she agreed with the city manager that the sewer agreement did not apply to the collector line.
Okay, so all of that is understood. Now, where I think that people are reading more into this is supposing the county does owe Bristol something. Still yet, if it's under the contract, I'm sure that will also come out. We're either gonna go with the contract or not go with the contract. And right now, it seems to me that we've got one motion, and that is to whether we vote in favor of mediation or no.
I was gonna say kind of straight from the motion, but not necessarily. Does everybody understand the motion? I don't think we have a misunderstanding of the motion. Mr. Brown, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I was gonna second Alicia's motion, but I'd like to put an amendment on there. When you're talking to Bristol, can you also discuss the possibility of terminating this agreement?
If you can amend it.
Would that be fair?
That's fine.
That you can discuss this with them, plus discuss the possible termination of this agreement?
I suspect I don't have it before, but I think there's a provision in the contract for termination. If that's the motion that's passed, that's what I'll do. Okay, yeah, we've got a motion and amendment. Amendment for the first time tonight.
Yep. Say the best for last, maybe. I'm
I'm not gonna argue until I hear what you say.
No, I'm kind of like with Commissioner Schull and as Mayor Miller has said multiple times, he may have gotten the cart in front of the horse. We've sat here and discussed this for over an hour, and I'm not even sure it's something we should be discussing. If what got lost in this whole translation was this is a Board of Education problem. And we're trying to fix a problem that hasn't really, I mean, all we did, we voted on a funding and it didn't go through. And now it's opened up a can of worms, Pandora's box, that we're trying to fix something that I'm not even sure we even should be trying to fix just yet. And, you know, yes, I've read the articles in the paper that there has been proposed, maybe a lawsuit, maybe not, I don't know. But I still think this is a Board of Education problem. And we're sitting here getting ready to get ourselves into a bind of about $4 or $5 million, possibly, that we probably shouldn't even be discussing right now and everything.
I think that's an argument that can be made once we move beyond this twilight zone we happen to be, for lack of a better term. We have a proper motion on the floor. Commissioner Shaw.
Look, I think we could kill the twilight zone. I don't want the mayor to do either one of those. What I want the mayor to do is go talk to the director of schools and, assuming she can speak for the Board of Education, see if you can work out some agreement to go forward with what we're going to do, got outvoted. I don't think Bristol has an involvement in this. That's why I can't vote for either one of those.
But I guess right now, Pat would only say it would not be argumentative, but you gotta recognize where we are. Dan and then.
Mr. Chairman, could I maybe offer a little bit of help? Hopefully. The only reason the mayor brought this up was because he did start the process for mediation. Let's stop there. Would you like to go forward with mediation or not? Yes or no? you know, you're trying to do 2 and 3 and 4 things at once, and that's why it's getting complicated. The mayor went ahead, we sent the notice to the attorney and said, we're in section 8 of the contract, we've talked. You said one thing, we said another. It appears that we're putting you on notice that we want to start that process. The mayor has come to you and said, did I do right or did I do wrong? Just answer that question first. And then we can talk about all this other stuff. That's what I suggest. I don't mean to lecture. I'm just saying you're trying to do 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 things at once, and that's what's tangling you up.
Well, I think we're talking about 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 things. I think we've got a proper motion on the floor that accomplishes what you said. Commissioner Locke, you.
I asked Alicia to amend the motion she made, and let's vote on either funding this project or not. We're gonna be back up here next month, the month after, discussing the same thing. What could turn into a $4 or $5 million issue here will cost $1 million. So we've got to move forward, and we're doers here. We don't need to be stagnant. And we've got letters from Bill Sora stating they don't have any obligation, and that's correct, what he told you?
No.
Okay.
We don't have letters, no.
Okay, so did Bill Sora say that the city of Bristol didn't have any obligation for this?
That was their
position. So I asked if she'll amend that motion. Let's vote on either funding this, what the school board said, either up to $1.2 million, or not, and go from there.
I don't, I don't understand what you're trying to accomplish, but that's not a proper motion. It's not a proper amendment on what the bill is addressing. If, I will leave that to the will of the body if somebody wants to vote on that, but that's not a proper amendment for Ms. Starnes', she may withdraw her motion, just from Robert Rules standpoint, which I haven't enforced at all tonight. But if you may withdraw your motion and we could vote on what.
I asked her to withdraw.
And she doesn't accept the amendment, she's out of order. Okay, my board's clear except the sponsor of the resolution. So we're ready to vote. Now you understand, let's get it down to where Dan said yes or no.
Yes or no.
If you vote yes on this resolution, it results in me going to Bristol and taking who I want and meeting with who I want to discuss this. That's, and that we pull back on mediation. If you vote no, we're going forward with mediation, as far as I'm concerned.
Howard, can I clarify one thing? When you say pull back on mediation, do you mean that I'm
Withdraw the letter.
Okay.
Withdraw the letter. Is that, Alicia, is that pretty much speak to what you want? So you got a yes or no vote. If you vote yes, we're gonna withdraw the letter. If you vote no, I'm gonna go and we're gonna have mediation. Is that clear now?
You had it right first. You had it right first.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, you go. Yes, you go. But we withdraw the mediation. Can I restate it, Mr. Chairman?
Let's let the county attorney restate the motion. Or restate what a yes vote and a no vote is, not the motion.
My understanding, as the mayor said, is the yes vote is for the mayor and whoever he wants to go negotiate a solution to this and to withdraw the notice of mediation. A no vote is to continue course with the mayor's notice that we're going towards mediation. Wait, said it back a second.
Everybody clear on that? I want everybody to be clear. And because this involves,
That's what I thought.
Because we've got a couple of questions. We're just trying to clarify that everybody knows what to vote on. I'm certain you don't have this on the board.
Commissioner Starnes, can we add on that your motion is to withdraw the mediation? Yes.
withdraw from mediation. First sentence. And that will result. Okay, that amendment's all right, but we're gonna have another vote before we leave here tonight, because I'm not gonna leave you without knowing what you want me to do. So, if we're gonna vote on withdrawing mediation, that's good, that's fine, I'm happy with that.
No, it's a two-part resolution, Mr. Chairman. She's still got the first part, which instructs you to go negotiate a solution.
So that's not the total resolution.
Todd added to, terminate.
And to negotiate a termination, yes.
Good. Dan, are you satisfied that the commission?
Yes, let me repeat it so it makes sure everybody else is. The motion is for you to negotiate a solution to the sewer question with the city of Bristol and take with you whoever you want. And also negotiate an end to the sewer agreement, and to withdraw your request to mediate. That is the motion.
Are we ready to vote? Let's just go ahead, Madam Clerk, are you ready to, you ready to do a roll call vote? Without looking on the board. We will take a roll call vote as soon as the resolution and amendment are properly requested. Adam, I'm glad I got you on the library board before we got into this. And while she's doing that, let me make a couple of announcements. We're gonna have commission pictures for the composite picture taken at the February 22nd meeting. So, get your hair done, cut, color, whatever it is you do. The other announcement is the Tennessee County Commissioners Association Government Day on the Hill in Nashville. You have been notified of that. If you've made your own reservations, let Angela know. She will register you at the convention. So if you have any questions about that, we'll call our office.
Our work session on Valentine's Day.
I'm sorry.
The work session on Valentine's Day. Next month.
The work session's on
I'll
Valentine's
bring
Day?
Valentine's.
You bring Jim with you. Ready to vote? Okay, we're gonna vote on the motion, as you understand it. We'll have a voice vote. Vote yes or no, when your name's called.
That's a no vote.
Abstention is a no vote.
And that abstention is a no vote.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Aker,
Yes.
Blaylock,
Yes.
Cron, Calvin,
Yes.
Cole is absent. Crawford,
Yes.
Cross,
Yes.
Crosswhite,
Yes.
Gardner,
Abstention.
George,
Abstain. Abstain.
Clever,
Yes.
Parkroyd,
No.
Hutton,
Yes.
Jones,
Abstain.
King,
No.
Leonard,
Yes.
Locke,
Abstain.
Morrell,
Yes.
Shaw,
Abstain.
Stanley, Starnes,
Yes.
Stidham,
Abstain.
Vance,
Yes.
Give me just a minute, please.
Yeah, you did, because you're right, it's not our problem.
You can make a motion, you can make a motion that we do not go to mediation.
She asked if anybody wants to change their vote.
No,
I haven't. I was just making some notations. Does anyone wish to change their vote?
I do. I'm trying to find a yes.
Glover, you're a no?
Yes, no.
Okay. Here's the vote. 10 yes, 10 abstain, 3 no, and 1 absent.
having failed to receive the necessary vote, the motion was rejected. We're in session. Any, Commissioner Crawford, for what reason?
Is it appropriate that I could make a motion that this commission would instruct the mayor to send a letter that this commission is through with this matter and there will be no mediation from you and Bristol altogether?
Proper motion.
Second.
We have a second. Block, Tim, Show. Discussion. No discussion?
Call the question, John.
Question's been called. That's motion. We have a member that wants to be recognized. Does the person call the question have a second? Commissioner King, that motion.
Let's call a question. If we don't go to mediation and you're not gonna talk to them, then what are we gonna do? Is this over?
No, we got a motion on the floor.
What was his motion on?
His motion was to notify the city of Bristol that we withdraw our request for mediation.
Okay. And then, are you gonna go talk to them then?
If the commission tells me to.
My motion was that we would instruct the mayor to send a letter that there will be no mediation concerning this matter. That's totally what it's all about. Now, as far as the sewer agreement, that's a different story. But my motion is that we dissolve this mediation thing and move on. And the mayor not have any more part of it except sending a letter that we are not gonna do mediation.
Okay, are we gonna continue to talk about this, or is this, are we done with it?
I personally,
Floor will be open for a motion after we vote on it.
yeah.
Okay.
I think the light has been shed on this tonight, that it's really not our issue. It's an issue that we agreed to, when the resolution was brought, that we approved the sewer line, that we dropped it and voted against that. Now we're trying to resurrect an old sewer agreement that could cost us money down the road. So if we go into arbitration or there's more discussion, it could just be, like I say, a tit for tat. You owe us $5 million, we're willing to give you $100 million, or $1 million. I think it's a losing battle.
Mr. King, you have a question?
Okay, okay, and I agree with what you're saying. Okay, the whole question about all this was, you know, does the school board transfer funds? My question is, why can't they pay for that sewer line out of the bond money?
That has nothing to do with the motion. That's not on the motion.
The issue about the sewer line is done as far as
You
this
don't need to
commission
answer
is
because
concerned.
that's not on the motion.
Right, okay, I agree with that. I agree with that.
That's not on the motion. The motion's yes or no. Do we write a letter? We don't. Everybody understand that? Anybody else want to talk about it? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. Now, we're still in session. We're still in session. Mr. Shaw, you're recognized.
Just give us more money. I believe the person that the mayor should go talk to would be Ms. Rafalowski. I realize that the vote failed, or to do the sewer with the school. It was 9 voted for it, and whatever it was, 15 against. But eventually, they have to have a sewer line, and I think
that's not got nothing to do with this. Well, and I'm not allowed discussion. Anybody else? Mr. Glover, you're right now.
Mr. Crawford, I get what you're saying, but what you need to realize, that the sewer agreement is still in effect. And if Bristol decides a year from now that they want that $4 million, then that's the way it's gonna be. And I don't think it'll be as nice to us as we are to them. And if we don't move forward with some type of talks with them, then we might be responsible for $4 or $5 million in a year from now. And then that's not fair to the taxpayers that we represent. I think that we had the right idea for the mayor to go talk to them and negotiate and come back to us in 2 weeks and give us a reply on that.
Let me interrupt, and you're, I agree with you, but let me interrupt. We have already voted on the motion. We're just in general discussion here right now. The motion passed. And you have instructed me to withdraw the request for mediation with Bristol. Now, we're open. If somebody wants me and Mr. Street to go talk about the silver.
Yes, sir.
We'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that you and Attorney Street go and sit down and talk to Bristol, give us 2 weeks, come back, give us a report, and let's go from there. Not even mention mediation. Let's take that.
Proclamation on the floor, second. Second. We have proclamation on the floor, second. We have any further discussion? Mr. Crawford.
And I appreciate that, and I will support that. The thing with the other question in voting on it, if we voted no, mediation was going to proceed.
That's not on this motion.
No,
I can call that out over there. We have proclamation on the floor. Yes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion is passed. We're adjourned.
Done. 2 weeks. 2 weeks.